FlatsClass YouTube fans, welcome back to the channel. What does Captain CA have for you today? Well, we're going to talk bait casters for tarpon fishing. This is the third part of the three-part series that we're doing on tarpon gear. So if you missed the other two, we'll put the links down below. And that way you guys, or maybe we'll even connect this in a playlist so you can watch all three. But today I want to get you to understand why I employ the Tranx 400 HG for some of my tarpon fishing. So let's come over to the back of the truck to talk about it. Came up here because it's a little bit cooler. If you remember in part one, we talked about this setup, which was the 6,000 size Saragossa, and it's on a 7.5 foot medium heavy action rod. Now, there's a lot of advantages to throwing a lighter weight spinning rod when you're throwing artificials to tarpon. Now, the negatives are I have a lightweight, medium, heavy action rod to fight a tarpon with. So, but when I'm fishing with clients and there's that opportunity to catch those tarpon, I'm going to say they're in that 15, 20 pound class all the way up till maybe a 50 or 60 pound fish. That's more than adequate to do it if you've got some room to fight the fish. But what I like to do, where I like to fish, are in these backcountry lagoons, down in the Everglades, or fish some of the rivers that I have here, or maybe a marina basin or something like that for tarpon. And I don't want to throw a big heavy spinning rod outfit like we did in the second part of this tarpon series, because it's just too much and I want to throw artificials. I want something light. So I opt for this, which is a Terramar PX. Okay, you can see that. Here are the specs, guys. So it's a 7 foot heavy. I've got that mated up with a Tranx. This is the Tranx 400, if you will. It's the HG, the higher gear, and it's got a nice power knob on it. I spool this thing up with 50 pounds, 50 pound test. So it's got 275 yards of 50 pound on here, so it's plenty. Remember when I had the 6,000, I think I had like 30 pounds I could put about 300 yards on. So it's not a big difference, and I've got heavier line and a heavier action rod, so I can fight bigger fish. So I can still handle quite easily the 15 or 20 pound tarpon, but I can still knock out an 80, 90, 100 pound tarpon that might be laid up in the backcountry. So it's a nice add. The 50 pound setup, super, super nice. Now let me show you my leader. All right, I want to show you this leader, but some of the stuff I'm throwing is a variety of soft baits and plugs. So I might be throwing something like the Catch 5. I might be throwing something like this big Swimmers, if you will. This is like a 6-inch Swimmers with a big diesel eye. I might be throwing a 5-inch diesel minnows body with a little underspin. Just depends on the zone I'm in. And I've got a little lighter weight jig head on here to throw the kicker crabs if I so desire in certain beach scenarios, which I could very well use this rod. All right, the leader material I have, we'll start with the business end on this. I almost always go with a direct connect, if you will, when I'm doing this stuff. Does a good job, and whether I Palomar it or even if I tie an improved clinch knot, it works really well. Usually 3.5 feet of 50 or 60 pound leader, and then I like to again use the Bristol or no name knot, if you can see that, and then a section of double line here, if you will, if I can get it apart. But there's a little piece of double line right here that you probably can see, It's a short bimini, about 8-9 inches long. That's typically what I use. I want to have a little shorter leader on this because I'm looking for a nice smooth cast. Believe it or not, this will cast everything from about a 1/2 ounce worth of weight all the way up to like 2 ounces really well, maybe even 2.5. And with this particular reel, the 400, it has the variable brake system. It has the Hagani body. It has the core protect that keeps water out of it. It's super, super smooth. It has cross carbon drag on the star drag here. So it's a setup that I'm comfortable with. The whole reel weighs 12 ounces. If you reach over here and grab the 6000, this is 16 ounces on this Saragossa. So quite the difference, a lot of difference. This has 18, okay, the Tranx 400 has 18 pounds of max drag, where you have 22 pounds of max drag with that 6000. So they're still in the same ballpark, still close. The Saragossa 6000 on the spinning reel side for artificials is probably going to bring in about 41 inches of line on a handle turn. This is going to bring in 39 inches, so very, very, very close. So for me, with the variable brake system that I have in this, it is super, super smooth casting. It has stainless anti-rust ball bearings. It's a solid state piece of equipment. Lets me use heavier braid. It is just a heavier action rod, have a lot more pulling power. And for me, whether I'm sight fishing or blind casting at night along a bridge or anything like that where I have a little tighter quarters, I feel more comfortable with this setup than I would with a spinning rod. I just feel like I have more control over the fish. Other aspects I really like about fighting tarpon, especially in tighter quarters, with something like a bait casting reel that has the 400 Tranx on it, is just the fact that if I want to apply thumb pressure, a little extra drag, or if I want to make an adjustment, it's not like I got to take my hands and reach around the front to make the adjustment. I can do it just like that on that star drag. It's so much easier for me. Shorter rod, but it's lighter, it's closer to my body. I'm in a little bit stronger position with this. And I'm a little bit better caster, honestly, with the bait casting setup. It's not for everybody. It works really well for me, especially when I'm throwing swimmer jigs along dock lines, or I'm gonna say bridge lights. If I'm fishing a lagoon and I'm flashing a bait like that, or just reeling it through. There's so many times when I'll get fish in these mangrove lined bays, and if I've got something like this, I can just drop that rod tip. It's such a stiff rod with very little bend in it. I can stop a fish quick. So I've tons of confidence in this setup. I think you will too if you start throwing it a little bit. You're going to find other uses for this tarpon setup. You're going to find that it's not really a bad inshore grouper rod. It's a fantastic snook rod. I often test it quite a bit on those 40 to 45 inch redfish out in Louisiana, and it handles all of them with the greatest of ease. Hopefully you really enjoyed this 3-part series that we did on tarpon fishing. Or at least the rod and reel combos that are necessary for tarpon fishing in my areas. But if you like this kind of stuff, you want to see us do more playlists, see us do more of these series, just put it in the comments below. We'd be happy to do it. Give us some suggestions. And for goodness sakes, hit that subscribe button. Give us the thumbs up. I want to be here every week for you, almost every day if I can. We're getting close to that. And I'd love to be able to do some really good travel trips just for YouTube. So if that's something that you're enjoying, you guys are learning this, taking it to the water, it's benefiting you, let's do this. Come on. I want you in my classroom each and every week. This is just the first of many things that we're going to do with these series. All right, talking about tarpon season. It starts for me in a few days. May 1 is my first trip, so I gotta get cracking. I gotta get my boat in shape here.